34 years of pain. Man's incredible journey after discovering his sister was his biological mother. Andrew stared at the old family album spread across his kitchen table, a mix of nostalgia and curiosity flooding his heart. Every photograph seemed to echo secrets of his past, the flaking edges telling stories that had been locked away for too long. As the evening sun painted his quaint Midwestern town in hues of gold, Andrew couldn't shake the thought racing through his mind. What if understanding his family history could heal the wounds of abandonment left by his father? Each day, he poured sweat into framing homes for the families who would inhabit them, longing for the sound of laughter and love that filled the lives of those who walked through freshly built doors. Yet, beneath his sturdy exterior lay a man haunted by the shadows of his childhood. He dreamt of a home of his own, where acceptance and warmth replaced the void created by a father's absence. Little did he know, this journey into his family's past would shatter everything he thought he knew. As the annual Heritage Festival approached, a spark of excitement ignited within him. With childlike enthusiasm, he skimmed through family histories, weaving threads of identity into his display. But then came the earth-shattering truth. Emma, the sister he loved, was more than family, she was his biological mother. His heart raced, confusion and betrayal washing over him. The very ground beneath him felt fragile, a cruel twist in a life he meticulously built. Standing outside in the brisk night air, Andrew clutched his head in disbelief. The weight of stigma pressed down on him as he thought about how his tight-knit community would perceive this revelation. They were good folks, but that didn't mean they understood complexities beyond what they'd always known. Their glances from behind white picket fences could easily morph from concern to judgment. How could he reconcile his loyalty to the parents who raised him with the blood that connected him to Emma? Anxiety twisted in his chest, leading him to question everything he'd grown up with. After hours of restless contemplation, Andrew found himself face to face with Emma. When their eyes met, a flood of emotions crashed over both of them. He saw agony reflected in her gaze, and he felt the burden of their shared history. They had lived separate lives tied together by unspoken choices. In that quiet moment, they understood that family was far more than a title. It was the painful memories, the secrets wrapped in shame, and the silent sacrifices made in search of belonging. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The conversation that followed was raw and enlightening, each word tinged with vulnerability and hope. Andrew realized how desperately he craved understanding not just from Emma, but from the world around him. Slowly, he began to emerge as an advocate for empathy within his community. He shared his story, igniting conversations about love that transcended bloodlines, encouraging others to reconsider their ingrained biases. But as he stood on this precipice of change, an old friend challenged him in a way he never expected. Faces twisted and skepticism surrounded him as whispers flickered like fireflies in the night. Could love truly overcome the icy barriers erected by societal standards? The festival, a beacon of transformation, loomed closer with a promise of redemption and uncertainty hanging heavy in the air. Andrew clenched his fists, knowing he must fight to forge his own identity, yet wondering if anyone in his town would be brave enough to stand at his side. Would they see him as he was a man learning to redefine family amidst chaos? The next chapter of his life awaited, one that he could not yet see, filled with challenges that would redefine every bond he'd ever known. Andrew felt the air shift around him as he stepped into the brightly decorated festival grounds the following day. Colorful buntings danced in the soft breeze, laughter from children echoed in the distance, and savory scents wafted through the tented areas. Yet amidst the joy, a gnawing anxiety twisted in his gut. It was supposed to be a celebration, but for him, it felt like a battleground of inner conflict and public scrutiny. He saw familiar faces, friends he'd known his whole life. Jim, a former teammate, waved enthusiastically from the entrance of the hot dog stand. Their mutual smile faltered when Jim realized Andrew wasn't returning the gesture with the same vigor. A brief flicker of concern flashed across Jim's face. Yet he pushed through, calling out to Andrew, "Hey man, you coming to join us?" Andrew nodded slowly, finding himself caught between the desire to reconnect and the dread of sharing his truth. As he walked forward, each step felt heavier, as if the weight of his new reality was physically anchoring him down. He had come here to support Emma, to show that family was more than blood, but how could he champion that idea while remembering how it tore his world apart? When he reached Jim, the conversation turned casual, but Andrew couldn't shake the feeling that they were skirting around an unacknowledged elephant in the room. "You seemed a bit out of it lately. Everything okay?" Jim probed, concern thickening his tone. Andrew's heart raced, his mind teetering on the brink of confession. But just then, Emma emerged from the crowd, a delicate flower against the backdrop of vibrant festival chaos. She tugged at his sleeve, and in that simple gesture, he felt an inner strength radiating from her. "Let us do this together," she whispered. They approached a small makeshift stage off to one side, where the main events were taking place. Emma had agreed to share their story under the guise of celebrating their origins and encouraging acceptance. The banner above proudly proclaimed roots of love, yet Andrew knew it was so much deeper than that. Feeling a mix of admiration and fear, Andrew took a deep breath as they took their place before the small gathering. Emma spoke first, her voice trembling yet fierce. She talked of their childhood, of love wrapped in secrecy. Andrew joined in, his voice growing steadier as he spoke about the importance of reconciliation, both with the past and for the future. Each word felt like a stepping stone towards something meaningful, something he longed for. The community listened, silent, their expressions shifting from surprise to contemplation. As he shared their truth, Andrew's chest felt lighter, as if the darkness that had cocooned him for years was beginning to fade. But not everyone looked receptive. He could sense the whispers gathering strength behind him, like a storm rolling in. Faces of disbelief and discomfort darted to one another, filled with questions he knew they were too afraid to voice. Then he saw Ruth, the town's matriarch, known for her unyielding opinions. She stood to the side, arms crossed, skepticism etched into her features. The crowd widened a bit, and he imagined that a space had opened for judgment. "What about the children?" she shouted, the piercing tones silencing the murmurs. "What kind of legacy is this for them?" Andrew felt the walls closing in, but he refused to let that harshness extinguish the flame igniting within him. "Love is what we leave behind," he retorted, his voice stronger than he expected. "And love knows no boundaries. It veers off the expected path, takes us to unexpected places, and teaches us how to accept ourselves and others." As the words left his mouth, a moment of silence followed, charged with uncertain energy. Would they stand with him against the tide of tradition? Would they find a way to embrace a new definition of family? The anticipation hung thick in the air like a web, waiting for someone to break the spell. Andrew's heart pounded, beating a rhythm that matched the pulsing uncertainty of the crowd before him. He glanced back at Emma, and saw her encouragement reflected in her eyes. Then, almost as if synchronized with his racing heartbeat, a hand shot up in the crowd. "What do we do now, Andrew?" The question hung there, powerful and full of potential. The next chapter of this adventure, this struggle, was just beginning, and they all needed to decide whether to venture forward into the unknown. Andrew felt the weight of the crowd's gaze pressing in, an intensity that felt like a physical barrier. The question loomed above him, unaddressed yet heavy, almost mocking. What do we do now? It was a call for direction, for resolution in a moment where everything felt raw and vulnerable. That he looked at Emma, her eyes wide and encouraging, a steadfast belief written on her face. Taking a breath, Andrew decided it was time to be the compass they all needed. "Now," he began, his voice gaining steadiness with each word, "we listen to each other. We learn." Behind him, the murmurs started to swell again, but he cut through them. "We have to confront the truth," Andrew said, drawing the listeners deeper into his resolve. "The past isn't just a story we tell. It's part of us, and it's shaping how we move forward." He remembered the nights spent wrestling with questions of identity, of familial ties twisted, and turned in ways that had left him feeling lost. He swallowed, visualizing the faces of those who might dismiss his journey as merely complicated. Can we really say what's best for the children if we don't understand their roots? He pressed, glancing between familiar faces, searching for a connection. Emma stepped closer, her hand brushing against his. It's time for a new narrative, she added, her voice unwavering. One where love wins. One where our families can be as diverse as our community. Around them, the crowd started to shift, some nodding, others frowning, but with curiosity etched into their expressions. It felt as if they were beginning to see beyond the initial discomfort. Ruth, however, remained a statue of doubt. She was a fortress, unyielding. You're asking us to embrace a lie, she replied with a shake of her head, her voice icy. Andrew took a step toward her, the pulse of determination coursing through him. It's not a lie, Ruth. It's a truth buried in shame, and we have to dig it out. This isn't just about blood. It's about love, acceptance, and forgiveness. The square filled with a quiet tension, as if the very air vibrated with possibility. A voice from the back of the crowd chimed in, an old friend, someone Andrew had shared laughter and memories with. I think we can try to understand, Andrew. It's worth a conversation. A ripple of agreement followed. More voices joined, urging others to think differently. Conversations began, whispers turning into questions, questioning old beliefs, and allowing room for new understanding. Andrew felt a rush of hope, but knew the road ahead would be anything but simple. As diverse opinions melded into a lively discussion, he scanned the crowd, looking for familiar faces, their mix of anguish and contemplation fueling his resolve. But even amidst the warmth of emerging acceptance, a troubling uncertainty flickered in his chest. He hadn't addressed the fears that loomed over him, fears that his truth would break the very fabric of his community. The air felt electric as emotions ran high. Andrew turned to Emma, open acknowledgement shimmering in their eyes. Where do we go from here, Andrew? She asked softly, grounding him. His heart danced with hope and dread alike. But perhaps that was the point, moving forward despite uncertainty. With conviction threading through his voice, Andrew replied, we open the floor. We share our stories, our truths. We allow the light in. As they stepped down from the stage, Andrew felt a shift, a subtle rift forming. Together, they would face whatever storm lay ahead, but he couldn't shake the feeling that Ruth's cold stare was only the beginning of a larger struggle. And he was left wondering, how far were they willing to go to transform fear into unity? Andrew could feel the pulse of the crowd behind him as he and Emma stepped from the stage. Conversations bubbled and flowed like a river finding its path, carrying thoughts that were long suppressed. People were sharing, questioning, and processing offenses and joys that weighed heavily on their hearts. The glare of uncertainty lingered in Andrew's mind, fueled by Ruth's unwavering resistance. She was not a mere spectator. She was a challenge he would have to face. As he glanced around the square, Andrew noticed small clusters forming. Friends leaned into discussions, voices overlapping like a colorful tapestry. Some faces lit up with understanding, while others reflected deeper fears. He felt Emma's fingers intertwine with his, offering a warmth that seeped through his worries. We're making progress, she whispered, tilting her head to catch his eye. But we need to be ready for anything. Yes, Andrew replied, his voice steady but laced with apprehension. This is just the beginning. Just then, a figure emerged from the crowd, short and familiar. It was Claire, a woman he remembered from his childhood. Her laughter echoed in the hallways of his past. Her cheeks were flushed, eyes bright but filled with a hint of sadness. Andrew, she called softly, catching up to them. Can we talk? He nodded, leading her a few paces away from the thrumming heart of the crowd. What's on your mind? I've been thinking a lot about what you said, Claire started, her voice trembling slightly. About understanding our roots. She hesitated, her hands twisting nervously in front of her. I've carried so much anger over the years, not just about the past but toward my own family. Andrew could almost see the burdens she carried, stacking inside her. You're not alone in feeling that way, he replied gently. It takes courage to confront those feelings. But what if I can't move on? Claire's eyes glistened, a mix of desperation and hope. What if knowing the truth just tears me apart? Andrew took a breath, willing to offer comfort. Sometimes, The truth feels like a wrecking ball. It can dismantle what we think we know, but it can also clear the path for something new, something beautiful. Claire nodded, catching her breath. Maybe that's where I need to start. Her voice was strong, a resolve rising like smoke from embers. I want to understand. I want to talk to my parents. I want to know why they made the choices they did. Andrew wanted to celebrate this small victory, another soul willing to unpack their past instead of burying it. That's a brave step, he said. Conversations like that can change everything. As they spoke, he felt a sense of community sweeping in around them. Conversations swirled in the air, and he could see a shift in the crowd, a recognition of shared experiences bridging gaps, knitting them closer. Yet, just as excitement bubbled, Andrew felt that familiar chill creep back in. He caught sight of Ruth again, standing at the edge, her arms crossed and mouth set in a hard line. Her eyes found his, stirring a deep-rooted fear in him. Could he truly face her? A voice he anticipated broke the chatter, a man he'd never expected to stand up. I want to share my story, he boomed, transforming voices into silence with his courage. I've lived with the shame for too long. Andrew's heart raced. This was it. The moment he had hoped for. The moment they would bear their truths and reshape their community. But what would happen when the stories poured out? Would Ruth step forward, or would she draw further back into her fortress? Somehow, Andrew knew the next step wouldn't be easy. He wondered, as tension filled the air like a storm brewing, if they were ready to unpack the lives intertwined by blood and love, and how far they would go to break through that wall. Was he truly ready to embrace the heart of this struggle? The man's voice hung in the air, heavy with raw emotion. Andrew's heart pounded in time with the rhythm of uncertainty. Faces turned, eyes sparkling with curiosity and unease. This was their moment. I've carried the weight of this for over 3 decades, the man continued, his deep voice breaking slightly. I was raised believing my parents were my real parents. But I've learned things that turned my world upside down. He took a breath, pulling himself together as all eyes remained fixated on him. My sister, she's my birth mother. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Andrew felt a jolt in his chest, a wave of realization washing over him. This was more than a personal crisis, it mirrored all their hidden pains, all the secrets tethered to their identities. Claire looked at Andrew, horror and empathy warring in her eyes. Is that possible? She whispered. He nodded slowly, digesting the man's revelation. Families are complicated. Secrets can twist love into confusion. The man continued. I found out only a few months ago. I've struggled with anger. Anger toward my sister for giving me away. Anger toward my parents for hiding the truth. But mostly, anger at myself for the years wasted in ignorance. He paused, emotions swirling like a storm in his eyes. But today, I stand here to say I'm ready to heal. It's time for truth. Applause erupted, the crowd responding to vulnerability with empathy. Andrew's heart swelled, pride mingling with the heaviness in the air. This was the breakthrough, a shared struggle made tangible, igniting their collective spirit. But as the crowd swelled with encouragement, Andrew's gaze drifted back to Ruth. She remained rigid, an island of ice amid the surge of shared connection. He could almost see the wall she'd built, thick and impenetrable. Ruth, he called out, his voice softer now, inviting as if trying to pull her from her fortress. What do you think? Silence answered him. Ruth's face stayed stoic, yet Andrew noticed her jaw tighten. The moment was critical. Her response could shape the narrative going forward. Faint murmurs resurfaced in the crowd, questioning why she wouldn't speak. Hesitation hung thick, like fog obscuring clarity. Andrew felt a hand on his back, Emma's reassurance grounding him. Everyone, this isn't just about stories, she added, her voice clear and firm. It's about healing, about coming together despite the pain. Ruth shifted slightly, eyeing Andrew with a mixture of fear and defiance. Those who had gathered leaned in, hungry for her words. Would she choose to engage, to fight, or surrender? Andrew took a step forward. Ruth, we can't go forward without you. What are you holding on to? His heart raced. With every fiber of his being, he yearned to bridge the gap between them, to pull her into the warmth enveloping the square. As she opened her mouth to speak, Andrew held his breath, anxiety and hope swirling within him. Would she break her silence? Would she reveal her truth? And if so, would it spark understanding or further division? The air seemed to hold its breath in anticipation, a standstill between fear and release. Just as the moment threatened to shatter under its weight, she pulled back, her arms still crossed, walls towering high. Across the square, Claire's voice cut through, reshaping the energy. "What about my story?" And just like that, the crowd shifted. Tension transformed as another soul prepared to unfold their truth. Andrew felt both grateful and worried. While stories were surfacing, the weight of Ruth's silence lingered ominously. This felt like an invitation, a calling to unravel, peel away the layers that obscured their shared humanity. Would this wave of confession finally draw Ruth out of her shell, or would her guarded heart remain a barrier? As Andrew took in the scene, he knew they stood on the precipice, one step away from either healing or heartache. The moment was closer, but was everyone ready for what lay beneath? Claire stepped into the circle, her courage palpable. "I've never spoken publicly about my family," she began, her voice wavering. The crowd hushed, all ears directed toward her, eager yet delicate as they sensed her vulnerability. "I was a child of divorce, raised by a single mom who worked multiple jobs. I always felt different, like there was a missing piece." Andrew's heart swelled with compassion. He admired her bravery, but shared her apprehension about what was to come. The weight of expectations hovered in the air. Would she find her closure here today? "The year I turned 10, my mom sat me down and revealed something that made my heart sink. She told me my dad, he just left. He was gone for good, and she never wanted to tell me the truth. They weren't just separated, they were never even married." She paused, her breath shaking. "And she kept saying it was for my own good, that knowing the truth would only hurt me more." Whispers swept through the crowd. A shared understanding rippled among them. Andrew felt the tension soften, a shift in the collective energy. Claire's story echoed the man's in a way that felt profound and deeply connected. The man who had first spoken took a step closer to Claire, his face gentle. "You're brave for sharing that. It takes courage to speak the truth, and sometimes it feels like a heavy load, doesn't it?" Claire nodded, her eyes glistening. "It does. I've battled anger, resentment. Everyone's journey is so complicated. I grew up wondering why I wasn't enough for my father to stay, why my existence didn't matter to him." The crowd exhaled, feeling the depth of her pain. Emotions bounced like waves, each person relating to the aching heart of a child left in the wake of adult decisions. Andrew glanced at Ruth, searching for a flicker of understanding or connection, but she remained cold, a stone statue in the warm light. "Now I find peace by focusing on the love I do have," Claire continued, her voice gathering strength. "My mom fought for me. It took time, but I understand her choices were made with love, even the ones that hurt. It's a lesson I'm finally learning." A ripple of applause broke out, heartfelt and grounding. But as the claps faded, Andrew felt the tension compress again, drawing the crowd's attention back to Ruth. They all knew she hadn't yet spoken her truth. "Ruth," he encouraged gently, stepping forward. The weight of anticipation mounted, thick and palpable, like a storm poised on the horizon. "We're here for you. Whatever you carry, you don't have to do it alone. This is a safe space." Her eyes darted between Andrew and the crowd, a mix of defiance and vulnerability. The muscles in her jaw clenched once more. Andrew could almost see the internal war taking place. The desire to speak mingled with a fear of exposure. Ruth inhaled sharply, her breath cutting through the mounting silence. She began, but then faltered, her voice lost to uncertainty. At that moment, Andrew felt an ache in his chest, the unmistakable pang of a heart unbound yet caged. He understood fear could paralyze someone, locking them away behind walls built of hurt and distrust. The crowd leaned in, drawn toward her, hoping she would unravel, just as she seemed ready to find her voice. The loud ringing of a bell echoed through the square, fracturing the moment. The voices of children laughing nearby danced around them, urgent and carefree, almost mocking in their innocence. Andrew's heart sank. The noise had shattered the fragile connection forming between Ruth and the group. Instantly, the crowd's attention scattered, curiosity replaced by surprise. Would this interruption be a pause in their journey, or would it serve as a catalyst for something deeper? "Ruth," Andrew urged, desperation creeping into his tone, "look at them. They're fearless. You can be too. You have so much inside you, please, he pleaded, eyes locked on hers. Would this bell toll as a warning, stopping Ruth from sharing her truth, or would it inspire her to seize the moment? The air was thick with unanswered questions, their stories, still tangled amidst the echoes of laughter and the weight of unspoken words. As she hesitated, Andrew wondered what revelation hid behind those walls. Ruth's eyes narrowed slightly, an internal battle visible in the twitch of her brow. The laughter of children mingled with the rustle of leaves, creating a backdrop that seemed to amplify her struggle. She stayed rooted, trapped in the expectations of the crowd and her own fears. Andrew stepped closer, desperately hoping his presence would ground her. "You're not alone," he whispered, gently nudging her back towards the circle of vulnerability. "Look, you're surrounded by people who care. It's okay to feel scared, but remember, you're stronger than you think." A flicker of something determination, perhaps sparked in Ruth's eyes. She took a deep breath, her chest expanding as if gathering all the air she needed to fly free. The square fell silent again, a collective breath held, each person leaning in. "I grew up with secrets," Ruth finally spoke, her voice steady yet low. "I've carried them in the shadows, afraid of what the light would reveal." Her gaze shifted, sweeping over the familiar faces, friends, neighbors, people from her past before landing back on Andrew. But maybe hiding isn't the answer. Encouraged by his presence, she continued, "You see, my family was never what it seemed. My parents, they kept things hidden, weaving webs of deceit that tangled around us all. I thought I was just less than what I could have been." The crowd absorbed her words, each heartbeat echoing the weight of her story. "What if my truth is scarier than what I've built it up to be?" she asked, vulnerability in her voice. The question lingered, an invitation for the crowd to step closer, intertwining their own fears and narratives with hers. Andrew felt his heart race. She was finding her footing. "You're already showing so much strength just by saying that," he encouraged. "What you fear doesn't define you. It's what you choose to do next that matters." Ruth paused, searching the faces around her, seeing eyes glisten with tears, nods of understanding in the mix. "Okay," she said softly, a shaky smile breaking through. "Here goes nothing." A rush of adrenaline filled the air as if the crowd collectively knew they were on the brink of something significant. "I was in a different kind of pain," Ruth continued, her voice gaining volume. "For years, I thought I was the product of a broken family. But the truth is, my mother, she was my sister, my older sister. She raised me after our parents abandoned us." Gasps erupted from the crowd, their shock rippling out like a pebble tossed into still water. Andrew's chest tightened. He hadn't expected this twist. What? He thought. The narrative had shifted in a heartbeat, and so many pieces started clicking into place. "I found out by accident," Ruth said, her voice gaining momentum. "A clumsy slip in a conversation, a misplaced letter, and just like that, my world turned upside down. I struggled with countless emotions. Betrayal, anger, confusion. It's been overwhelming. Tension filled the space, every person grasping the profound intricacy of her revelation. Families broken, yet intertwined, love disguised as layers of protection. A part of me lost faith in family," Ruth admitted, glancing down, her fingers fidgeting. "But now I stand here, feeling strangely liberated. The weight of these secrets, they don't have power over me anymore." Andrew could see a light spark within her, a flicker of hope breaking through the shadows of hurt. "Isn't that what we all crave?" he pondered. "To be unburdened by the weight of lies, to live out our truths openly?" Without missing a beat, Ruth raised her chin defiantly, a fierce determination in her eyes. "And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that truth can be uncomfortable. But in its rawness lies beauty and healing." Finally, she turned to the crowd, her chin held high. "It's time for all of us to embrace our truths, no matter how messy they may be. Let us not hide anymore." Ruth's honesty mirrored Claire's earlier bravery. The resonance of past wounds echoed through the crowd, drawing them closer, connecting them in ways they hadn't anticipated. Andrew found himself teetering on the brink of a revelation of his own. In the shadows of Ruth's confession, he felt a stirring within his heart, a question waiting to break free. Could he confront the truth about his own family as well? What if his past held the key to his future? The tension in the air thickened once more as it became clear that the raw honesty of one could ignite the courage of another. The moment turned electric. What secrets lay hidden within the hearts of those gathered, waiting to be released? Ruth's words hung in the air, a soft tremor of disbelief rippling through the crowd. Andrew took a step back, his mind racing. The revelation of Ruth's relationship with her sister gripped him in a strange mix of awe and fear. He glanced around. Faces were wide-eyed, mouths slightly agape, as if the world had just shifted beneath them. Then, a voice broke through the stillness. "Ruth, you're so brave," Claire whispered, her eyes brimming with tears. Others murmured in agreement, their whispers stitching a tapestry of solidarity that surrounded Ruth. Andrew felt the heat of their emotions wash over him. It was time for him to embrace his own truth. This was his moment, just as it had been for Ruth. He could feel the weight on his chest, a secret he had carried longer than he could remember. Stepping forward, he cleared his throat, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. "I've been hiding too," he confessed, words tumbling out before he could bottle them back up. "For years, I've wrestled with my own family's past. My mom," he faltered, the memories flooding back his mother's tears, the way she would stare into space long after he'd gone to bed. She never talked about her own family. I always wondered why. Now I think, maybe she was afraid to let anyone in. He took a shaky breath. The crowd leaned in closer, every set of eyes holding him in place. What if I've been avoiding finding the truth because I was scared? Maybe there's something in my history that could change everything. Gasps echoed again, almost like a wave returning from the shore. Andrew continued, feeling emboldened. I've spent so much time pretending everything was fine, but I can't anymore. I need to know why there are gaps in my family tree, why we never talked about anyone before my grandparents. Ruth nodded, her earlier bravery fueling him further. It's scary, but we can't keep burying our truths. Maybe they hold the keys to our healing. One by one, faces in the crowd flickered with recognition. They were each grappling with their own ghosts, and in these intimate exchanges, they began to feel a shift. A woman standing nearby, her eyes glistening, raised her hand. "My father was never in my life. I found out he had another family. But like you, I've been too afraid to reach out." "Same here," another voice chimed in. "I found a letter once, it broke my heart. But what if I'm missing connections that could make me whole?" Each person seemed to carry a burden, and as they spoke, the air thick with their stories, Andrew realized they were standing on the precipice of a movement, a wave of shared pain and healing. The sunlight began to fade, casting long shadows on the ground, mimicking the lengths of their secrets. But in this gathering dusk, one thing stood clear. They were ready to unveil the hidden corners of their hearts. The crowd's energy sparked to life, igniting a deep-rooted courage among them. "Let us promise each other we'll seek our truths and not back down," Andrew suggested, glancing over at Ruth, who flashed him a proud smile. "This is just the beginning." The crowd erupted with murmurs of yes, and let us do it. He could feel it, an unspoken agreement binding them together. Each revelation made their collective strength feel palpable. Andrew's heart raced. As he looked at Ruth, he wondered if they were all connected by something deeper. What did his own family secret hold? In this moment of unity, they faced the dawning realization. The past was not just a chain binding them, but an opportunity for growth. And as that promise washed over them, a new question lingered in Andrew's mind: what truths awaited him when he finally confronted his family's history? The anticipation stirred within him, wrapping tightly around his hope, urging him to take the next leap. The air thickened with emotion as the crowd slowly began to disperse, some lingering to share quiet conversations, while others drifted away, deep in thought. Andrew stood at the center of it all, his heart still pounding with the weight of his revelation. He could still hear the echoes of their stories, woven together like threads in a fraying tapestry. Ruth stepped up beside him, her presence grounding him. "You spoke so openly. I didn't know how you'd react, but it was powerful," she said, wiping a tear from her cheek. "You're going to chase those truths, right? I can see it lighting up in your eyes." Andrew wished he could respond with an easy smile, but the knot in his stomach tightened. "I will. I don't know what I'll find. What if it's worse than I imagined?" Ruth shook her head. "Then you'll face it together with us. You're not alone in this. I realized that today." With a shared nod, they took a step away from the crowd, the golden hues of the setting sun painting the sky in rich oranges and purples that felt like a comforting embrace. But the beauty of the moment felt overshadowed by a growing uncertainty within Andrew. What truths about his family could be waiting to be uncovered? As they walked together, Andrew turned to Ruth. "Can I ask you something? How did you find the courage to face your sister? What if your truth cast shadows on your past?" Ruth hesitated. "It was terrifying. I spent years living in fear of rejection. But when I finally reached out, I realized that understanding is often where healing starts. And not just for me, for everyone involved." Her words struck a chord deep in Andrew's heart. He could echo her fears, the sense of loss that so often accompanied the memories of his mother. "What if I learned something that changes everything I know? What if my family was never what I thought it was?" "Then that's your truth," Ruth replied gently. "If you don't seek it out, you'll stay stuck in the past. But if you do, you could rewrite your future. Just remember, those of us who joined this journey together are here to support you." A sudden burst of courage flooded Andrew's heart. He couldn't keep circling around his fears. He needed answers. "I think my mom had a sister, but she never mentioned her. What if there's more to this story?" Ruth reached out, squeezing his hand for reassurance. "That's the first step, Andrew. Find out what you can about your mother's family. Talk to anyone who might know. Sometimes, the pieces come together where we least expect them." They sat at the edge of a nearby park, the muffled sounds of laughter and chatter from remaining groups offering comfort against their growing vulnerability. The sun sank lower, its rays fading yet carrying that lingering warmth. As Andrew stared out into the horizon, a million questions tumbled in his mind. What if his mother was holding on to something that could change everything? What if the sister he longed to know was waiting to share her own stories? The shadows of his past danced in that fading light, and with each breath, he found himself longing for clarity amidst the chaos. "Do you promise to come with me? Not literally, but keep me grounded?" Andrew asked, searching Ruth's gaze for assurance. "Always," she promised, her voice a soft caress against the sharp edges of uncertainty. Feeling a newfound determination surge within him, he finally voiced what had been weighing on his heart. "I think it's time to dig deeper. I'll start this week." As they spoke, the sun dipped below the horizon, leaving the twilight ripe with possibilities. In the lush silence that followed, Andrew's heart thrummed with both fear and excitement. What awaited him at the end of this search for truth? Just as he was about to process this, his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from a number he didn't recognize. Curiosity piqued, Andrew opened it. "I know the truth about your mother. We need to talk." His breath hitched. This was the moment he had been dreading, and yet desperately craving. What would this conversation unlock, and how would it reshape the path ahead? Andrew's heart raced as he stared at the message. A familiar flutter of anxiety, mixed with the thrill of possibility, churned within him. This was at the moment that could change everything. He glanced at Ruth, who was still processing the echoes of the festival behind them. "I need to take this," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Ruth's eyes sparkled with understanding. "Do it. This is your journey." Andrew quickly typed a reply, arranging to meet the mysterious sender at a local cafe later that evening. Time seemed to crawl as he waited, his mind a whirlwind of fear and hope. What if this person held the answers to all his questions? What if the truth tore his world apart even more? As the sun slipped further from the sky, the cafe's soft glow welcomed him, a sanctuary amid his storms. He stepped inside and spotted a woman seated at a table in the corner, her eyes fixed firmly on her coffee cup. There was an air of familiarity about her, and Andrew felt an almost magnetic pull as he approached. "Are you?" he began, but the words caught in his throat. When she looked up, a flicker of recognition sparked. "I'm Lily," she said softly, a warm yet somber smile playing on her lips. "Your mother's sister." The air crackled with history that spanned decades, a chasm of silence broken at last. Andrew's breath caught, and he swallowed hard, hoping to find his voice. "Why didn't you ever reach out? Or—" "Because I didn't know how," Lily interjected softly, her tone laced with grief. "Your mother had her reasons for leaving, and I respected that, even if it hurt. But I've spent years holding on to so many memories, wishing she'd come back for me for you." Andrew felt his heart swell as curiosity overcame fear. What was she like? Why did she leave? Lily inhaled deeply, as if summoning strength. She was brave, always caring, but she struggled under the weight of her choices. We were raised in a tough situation, Andrew. Our parents made decisions that twisted the fabric of our family. I tried to reconnect in the past, but was terrified of opening old wounds. I thought it wouldn't matter, but seeing you now, I realize everything has been tangled together. Andrew felt his chest tighten. Their shared legacy bore the roots of pain he was only beginning to untangle. What happened to her? She felt trapped. Andrew, Lily replied, her voice a whisper, as if speaking of a secret too powerful to be shared with the world. Trapped by the shame, the stigma. She thought it was better to stay away, to protect you. But it only tore us apart. Tears threatened to spill as he listened. Can I still reach her? Do you think she'd want to meet me? Lily's eyes shimmered with compassion. I want that for you, but I can't promise. She's healing, finding her strength from the shadows. But you have every right to seek her out. Family is worth fighting for, even when it's complicated. In that moment, Andrew understood the weight of what he had to do. I need to try, he said. The conviction surged through him, roaring to life. I need to bring our family together, heal these connections that have been broken for so long. Lily nodded, her expression filled with a mix of pride and uncertainty. That is the first step. But remember, healing takes time. The truth is not just a story, it's a journey, and feeling will follow both joy and pain. Outside the window, twilight wrapped the world in dusky hues. The warmth of the cafe faded into the background, as though time had shifted to highlight this pivotal moment. Andrew felt the stirrings of hope blossom within him. As they continued to converse, sharing stories of their shared family history, Andrew recognized the beauty inside the tangled paths of their hearts. Each revelation connected him closer to the roots that had shaped his identity. Just like his heartfelt conversations at the festival, this meeting ignited a spark within him to chase the truth, to be fearless in the face of uncertainty. He didn't realize how much his heart yearned for connection until now. With every story shared, more pieces fell into place, igniting a passion to mend the frayed edges of his family tree. I can do this, he murmured to himself, newfound determination blossoming. Lily's hand reached out, and he clasped it tightly. You are not alone, Andrew. You've already taken a courageous step. As they left the cafe together, Andrew felt lighter, freer. The weight of his past still lingered, but now he understood it wouldn't define him. This journey was more than seeking closure. It was about building bridges, embracing the complexities of love, pain, acceptance, and forgiveness. And so, he began to walk the tightrope of family history, not just as a man discovering his roots, but as the architect of a new narrative, one that would redefine his understanding of love and connection. With each step forward, Andrew felt himself transforming. He knew this was only the beginning of a greater journey, one full of challenges, complexity, and moments of grace. As they reached the street, the glow of streetlights brightened the path ahead. Andrew took a deep breath, understanding that he had the opportunity not just to gather fragments of a lost family, but to weave them into something new and beautiful. The truth he sought was finally within reach, and with determination in his heart, he knew he would reclaim the pieces of his soul. Together with Lily, they were ready to face whatever came next, for the light of understanding was worth every step taken. This is the moment for you, dear friends. Subscribe immediately to catch the next exclusive stories that will ignite your hearts. Leave a like now to power up the algorithm and show your support. Every click matters. Comment below your reactions and feelings about Andrew's transformation. We want to hear from you. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring journey. Your support means the world, and only true fans understand the importance of uplifting us through these actions.